All right, draft week is here and the Underdog lobby has dried up for us. All of the tournaments are filled, the big board, the little board too, but we will still squeeze in a draft today. I have spun up a private draft. I'm dropping the link in the Best Ball Breakfast channel in the Discord if you want to draft with me. And we'll also do a little portfolio review, see how our way too early draft exposure shook out here, and then also maybe a little BBM prep as well. My name's Pete. This is Best Ball Breakfast. Let's do it. My slow draft rooms are so much different than my streamed drafts.
Does no one realize Underdog's half-point PPR? Idiots!
Damn, bro. You know ball. Hope you guys packed your bags.
I packed my bags. No, I mean, I literally packed my bags. She kicked me.
Dude, Star Method's legit. Only way to max out every contest in a plus EV way.
Week 17, you still gotta get there, bro.
We have a finite sample. We only have so much samples. Is it negative EV to stream all your drafts?
We just don't know.
All right, GMs all around here. Mark coming in hot with the super chat to start us off. GM, the only exposure I care about is Waller. I don't think I might have like one share of Waller where I backdoor to Daniel Dimestack. I do not have a lot of Darren Waller. GMs. Wow, who would have thought that New York Giants discourse would be all the rage here on the Monday before the NFL draft? Mad Sox saying Daniel Jones could be a steal or trash. You know what? I agree with that. GM from beautiful Tucson from Brandon. What a flex there. GMs, what's up? Bindles, Ben, AJ, Tyler, my guy Emo Cowboy here. Can we talk about how sickos like Davis, 150 max pre-draft tourneys are ruining best ball? They can't even play anymore. Drafts are doomed. Yeah, I'm mad that all you guys maxed it and then didn't leave me a draft for best ball breakfast. I had a sweat over the weekend where I'm like, okay, the big board filled. I'm like, oh, the little board, it's still chilling out. I think I checked, I don't know, it must have been like Saturday. It was at 86%, maybe 90, whatever. I was like, maybe there's a chance. I woke up this morning and I checked it again and it was at like 99.4%. I was like, all right, this isn't happening. The little board is filling. But you know what? There's always a workaround, and that is Underdog blesses us with private drafts. And so I did spin up a 12-person private draft. I'm giving the people in the Discord first crack at this. If you're a YouTube member in the Best Ball Value Hounds and you're in the Discord, you can unlock that channel. I just posted that there. We have some spots remaining. In a few minutes, if that doesn't fill with those of you in the Discord, then I will post it in the chat, and anyone can come and draft with me. First come, first serve. Yes, Brandon, I got to know, Pete, how was the sushi tasting? The sushi tasting was amazing. Lauren and I went to a place in downtown Boston on Saturday night. It was a 20-course omakase tasting menu. It was incredible. 20 plus dishes. I would say like 15 of them or so were, sushi-based dishes. Then there was some Japanese Wagyu beef. There was a foie gras, like dessert finisher. That was incredible. And then there was also wine and sake pairings throughout. So yes, I had to, we stayed downtown for the night, did a little overnight. And there was no driving to be had after a wine and sake pairing with 20 courses. So it was an indulgent evening and a ton of fun. I highly recommend. It was a great experience. So yes, thank you for asking. Yes, GM win coffee. Let's do some coffee here. I'm at the end of my pot. My parents are still in town this weekend. There's a lot more competition for the coffee, so I don't have as full. This might be our only coffee pour of the day. So let's make a meal out of it. There we go. We're still talking about the Giants. Ben has more Bellinger than Waller. I am going to give a few more minutes to let some of the people in the Discord trickle into this draft, and then I will post the link in here for the remaining drafters. Speaking of benefits of being a YouTube member, I did a show on Friday night, Best Ball After Dark, with Fareed Shahid, the BBM champ, and it was a very fun interview. I'm going to actually post a clip of it later today. He had some wild stories essentially about not telling important people in his life that he won Best Ball Mania. Just such a chill dude who's been just enjoying laying low despite winning millions of dollars playing best ball. So if you guys want to get access to that interview as well as the entire archive of Best Ball After Darks, you just become a YouTube member, the Best Ball Value Hounds tier. And yeah, we will continue having Best Ball After Darks throughout the summer. That's also where you'll get tipped off when I enter Best Ball Mania drafts, which I believe, yeah, a week from today. How crazy is that? A week from today, we will have Best Ball breakfast with Best Ball Mania drafts. And I'm still trying to hammer out the exact details, but I guess I can say right now, my plan is for Best Ball Mania and Best Ball breakfast going forward throughout the summer to have longer streaming blocks on Mondays. So, you know, we've been doing a couple drafts here on these pre-NFL draft Mondays. I'm thinking we might have 3 drafts, 4 drafts, 5 drafts, bigger streaming blocks, having guests swinging by. So Best Ball breakfast is going to turn into Best Ball brunch very shortly. Not that kind of brunch, just more based on the time of day. We're going to have some long streaming blocks on Monday. So yes, you can mark your calendars for that. I will continue to always service the audio listeners as well. And then I have no inside information. I am working under the assumption that Best Ball Mania will be dropped on a Saturday evening. As the NFL draft concludes, that's when it was dropped last year. I think I will tentatively plan to do some kind of combo Saturday night stream as far as maybe a combo Best Ball After Dark and some opening kickoff Best Ball Mania draft. So I still have to figure out the exact programming and schedule for that, but let's plan on that for Saturday evening, Best Ball After Dark and some drafts. And yeah, I can't wait. Another big thing for me this week is in advance of Best Ball Mania, I've been working on a big video over on the Deposit Kingdom YouTube channel that is essentially kind of like a month-by-month guide on how to attack the contest. So because Best Ball Mania is such a unique beast in that it is open for almost 4 months, you know, starting with the NFL draft all the way to when the season closes, obviously anyone watching this stream is well aware of the kind of strategic nuances that have to be applied depending on when you're drafting. The things you do on the opening night of the contest are very different from what you should be doing when the contest is closing. And so I set out to put all of those kind of time-based strategy elements into a single video, with the goal being you can bookmark it, come back to it as a reminder. Hey, we're in June. What are the things I should be considering now? We're in July. You know, OTAs are starting up. What are the things we should be considering? All of that good stuff. So very excited about that video. I saw a rough cut of it this morning. That will be dropping tomorrow on the Deposit Kingdom channel. So make sure you guys are subscribed over there. I keep harping on it, but there are going to be lots and lots of videos over there this summer. I highly recommend it. I posted one, I think on Saturday, which was an unusual time for me to post a video over there, but that's just when I was able to get it out. I did a robust RB draft on earlier last week that I recorded offline, and one of my editors put that together, and it was a very fun exercise. It was an agonizing exercise, but fun to attempt. And that video is also up on the Deposit Kingdom channel. Got a lot of good feedback on that, seeing if I could make a robust RB draft work. And I came away from the exercise thinking it's possible to make it work if you don't do 4 straight in a row. Like the current ADP landscape made me have to reach big time in round 2 and round 4 to pull it off. You kind of have to be in the exact sweet spot of the board, preferably the back end of round 1. So you could get like Gibbs and Kyron, and then you're maybe catching the values more. But anyways, I'll let you guys go watch the video. If you want to see me in pain as I have to take Josh Jacobs like a round and a half ahead of ADP, you will enjoy that video, all on the Deposit Kingdom, and the live streams as usual will remain here. All right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to drop the link in here. We got about 4 more spots available, but I just dropped the link in the chat. If you want to draft in this private draft with us, I will toss that here. It's just a $25 single self-contained league, $195 to first, $50 to second, $25 to third. And these are always very fun to do, these private self-contained streams, because we can't fully turn off our brain from, stacking and all of the things we do to try to get first place in a tournament. But that's what makes it so fun. So just drop that into the chat if you want to draft with us. It is almost full. Otherwise, we will be off to the races here doing a draft. Even though there's no tournaments, we will find a way to draft. And this has just filled. Let me get my my screen going here, and we will get drafting. Should probably share the screen to make this work, right? That might be helpful. Here we go. All right, we got all the friends, we got all the family. See, and this is inclusive of the 150 maxers, because sometimes you guys get left out, right? Where you're like, hey, you're doing another big board draft. I can't draft with you anymore because I maxed it out. Now we were being fully inclusive here for anyone like Emo, who is 150 max. We got JGFC, Casey, we got KZ, we got Greg, we got Mark, we got Chad Candles, SGT, Captain Attack. Oh, we got my guy, J Mike, and then Myers here. So a little 1-7 slot for me on this Monday morning. And when we're done, we can do a quick exposure review, and we can tease a little bit more of some of the stuff in that Best Ball Mania video. GM Andy, what is up? BBM5 will drop Sunday morning like a Christmas present. We shall see. We shall see. I think the smart money is on Saturday evening, but I will take whatever we get. Michael's upset with the 10 spot. We got Captain Attack checking in. We start out with McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase. Business as usual this morning. All right, I am on the clock. I will happily take Brees here. You can tell that this is like a best ball breakfast room because I feel like Bijan hasn't been falling to 1-6. You see Greg take Jefferson over Bijan and Brees Hall, which I haven't noticed happening in my recent draft. So we grab Brees Hall here. Maybe I'll just run back my robust RB draft experiment. Yes, Tyler, cannot wait for the trades coming this Thursday. Oh my, what a fun offensive landscape is coming to fantasy football. Yeah, I'm so stoked for the draft on Thursday. I mentioned this last week. Between the amount of high-end talent we have at the wide receiver position to all of the kind of uncertainty with the second tier of quarterbacks. We have those first three. I think they're pretty locked into the first three picks, but, we all kind of assume McCarthy is going to the Vikings, but it's like, are they paying a premium to get up to 4 or 5 to get him? Are they going to try to pick their spot and nab him, maybe trade up with the Falcons at 8? Then you have all of the kind of smoke and mirrors with the other two quarterbacks, Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr., as I guess we say around here, where you have this weird dichotomy of teams like the Broncos and the Raiders clearly in the market for a franchise quarterback. But then you look at the consensus big boards, and these guys have second round grades by basically every single evaluator. So do they actually go in the top 15 picks because one of these teams wants to make sure they lock up a signal caller, or do we see them kind of tumble out of the first round like we saw with Levis? And then, of course, all of the late wide receivers who could go at the back half of round 1. So yes, I'm very excited about it. Let's see. Maybe I am just like a robust RB bro now. I've been saying I've been wanting to get a little Jonathan Taylor. Might as well add some exposure in this league. We'll start Brees Hall and Jonathan Taylor, a combo of running backs that I had on many of my 2023 Best Ball Mania teams, and we will start with them here. Yes, this is an intervention. Go AZ Card says, hi, my name is insert name here, and I'm a drafting-aholic. Yeah, I guess if you are suffering through drafting withdrawals and can't make it until, Saturday evening to start drafting again, to the point you had to hop in a 12-person league just to get your fix, I guess that would make you a drafting-holic. I should also mention, my friends at Underdog reminded me, for you Florida guys, Champions is now live in Florida. Champions is the new player versus player game. Champions is what I now have access to in Massachusetts as well. And yeah, they have a special for all of you guys in Florida. I know some of you guys were worried about being able to play these games in Florida, but it is back in a big way. Champions, it looks like they got an NBA one for you. Here we got whatever sport Sam Reinert plays. I'm guessing that's hockey. We got some baseball in here as well. So if you are in Florida, congratulations. You now have access to the Champions game format. And if for some reason you guys are new to Underdog, you can, of course, always get a $100 deposit match with promo code Pete. That deposit match is good for Champions, for any of the draft games, and, of course, for Best Ball Mania when that launches here within the next week. So, see, this is the spot I was in my exercise where you see Josh Jacobs go off the board, and I guess by ADP, Henry is up here as well, but it just really, really thins out. I am not going to take Derrick Henry here, though. I'm leaving my robust RB ways behind. Let's go ahead. I'm worried about getting buried in a wide receiver avalanche in this room. We're going to grab Devontae Smith. So we start Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, and Devontae Smith. Pete has converted to robust RB guy. I know. I've changed. I'm a changed man. Do you always like to stack? I mean, I think it's a good question as it pertains to these self-contained leagues. I think in general, across basically any format, stacking is good. Even if you're playing a self-contained 12-person regular season, like home league, right? Because if you really think about it, right? If everyone in your league was a competent drafter, an average drafter, you would have a little over 8% chance to win your league. That is not great odds, 1 out of 12. So stacking opens you up to variance, and we want that variance on our side. We want even more variance on our side when we're playing in a tournament with hundreds of thousands of entries, but we still want it on our side. The other way I would like to think about it is like this. Say if you were playing a self-contained DFS contest, let's even say on DraftKings, or as my friends at the Badge Bros would say, on Redacted, and you were playing in a 12-person Sunday, let's say week 1 DFS contest. Even though the stacking helps you out more in the larger fields because you're trying to find that contrarian stack or whatever, you would still stack even in that 12-person tournament, because if your wide receiver hits, your quarterback is likely to come along for the ride, or vice versa. So that's in general how I think about things. I want to be stacking. However, I'm loosening how much I'm a slave to stacking the smaller the contest is. So I am not going to be going out of my way to reach for stacks in a self-contained league like this, because all I'm going to have to beat in these rounds is not it's not the playoff tournament where you have to finish at the top of a grouping. This is going to be cumulative scoring through the season. So that definitely changes the dynamic a little bit. Let's see. I don't know if I can afford a quarterback here. I think we need to keep taking wide receivers. I think I'm going to go Zay Flowers here. Pete started taking high T injections last weekend. This is such an inside baseball reference. I haven't even gotten to read the article. Paul is saying, what Jackard similarity coefficient do you shoot for at self-contained leagues? I do actually want to explain this reference because it's an article and a concept I'm very excited to unpack. But Sacrilegious on Legendary Upside just dropped an article with the premise being people are overly fixated on diversifying their specific player exposures and not thinking about diversifying their teams on the team level. And I think that could mean, a few different things, specifically structures, the type of teams you're drafting, that's where you should be getting your diversity. And so he has this really cool article out. Again, I have not read it. I just saw some of the discourse in the Ship Chasing Discord, and I saw Sam Sherman actually put together, or I believe in the article, Sacrilegious provided a spreadsheet to basically check out how diversified your teams were on a team level. And he put in a few random drafters here that you might recognize. And I had the highest diversity percentile, 84th percentile diversification, which makes sense, right? This is for BBM. I drafted all of my teams on stream, so I'm getting really unique rooms. then I'm drafting with other people. So I'll have a Sean Siegel draft. I'll have a Pat Kerrane draft. I'll have a Chris Spags draft. I have all of these different flavors in there, which led to me having a really unique diversification percentage. But yeah, I think this is a really cool concept. It's something Brian and I have discussed on Lulz, portfolio diversification, thinking through how can your portfolio benefit on like both ends of the spectrum. So like, I think a good example of thinking about this would be like, if there was, like say, instead of being like, I'm going to be overweight Jahmyr Gibbs and then underweight David Montgomery, where you're overweight both of those backs in a way. And you're saying, hey, if Jahmyr Gibbs fails, maybe that means it's coming at the benefit of David Montgomery. And I'm going to actually benefit my portfolio in that way, even though the individual stands aren't how we normally interpret it. Let's see here. I am back. I'm going to keep taking wide receivers. I'm going to take Terry McLaurin here. But anyways, I don't want to bastardize what Sacrilegious said in that article. If you guys are legendary upside subscribers, you'll be able to check that out. I'm excited to dive into that. And I'm sure it's going to be something we talk about more this summer. We'll talk about it on Lulz. Maybe I'll make a video about it as well. But yeah, check out that piece. And then you can go and see how diversified your BBM portfolio was from a team level perspective. This room is seeing the wide receivers early. Yes. Which is what I expected here. Mark gets to do the Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews stack, which always feels good. Chad got Josh Allen and then Laporta. Laporta going a little later than he normally does. JB the Tech, what contest is this? This is a private 12-person league that I created. So the Underdog tournament lobby is now barren. If you go to underdogfantasy.com and go to the NFL tab, there are no tournaments. However, Underdog always provides us with the option to do self-contained leagues. So there's $3 drafts, $4 drafts, 5, 10, 25, 100, 1,000. I want to know the sicko. Do you think there is anyone out there that between now and the start of the NFL draft is going to sit in this lobby, a 2-person $1,000 draft to battle it out? How many rounds are these? 20 rounds, $1,000 head-to-head pre-NFL draft contest. If you participate in this, let me know. I want to make a documentary about you. I'm on the clock. All right. This is way too good of a value for CJ Stroud. And this actually goes back to the kind of the uniqueness elements of a self-contained league. Yes, I don't have any of the stacking partners, but I'm going to take CJ Stroud at pick 66, 16 picks past ADP, gives me access to potentially one of the highest scoring QBs in this league. And I don't need to worry about the stacking element and how those would benefit me within the gauntlet of a tournament structure. I will just take all of the CJ Stroud points here at value. Yeah. Emo thought he had you had Diggs. Where was the Nico drafter? KC had Nico here. You guys all thought, let me see if I can get cute and push it. The Tank Dell drafter already had Jalen Hurts. Sorry, guys. CJ Stroud at 66 is a smash. We actually talked about this on ADP chasing last week. Gretchen and I filled in for Paternity Pat, and we were having a conversation about the CJ Stroud ADP, and I just have no problem with it. Specifically at pick 66. I think there is a very real chance he could be the top scorer this year. And I think a very likely chance he's a top 3 or top 4 quarterback. I have no problem with him flipping Mahomes in ADP, which didn't happen here. And even if you're skeptical on CJ Stroud and you're saying, hey, we've seen this type of guy where they get pushed up, but he doesn't run enough to really justify this tag. I mean, you got to be buying the dip when he's falling to the 6th round there. Okay. This is a gross area of the board right now. Let's see. ADP wise, I am not a Christian Watson guy. I'm not a Kamara guy. Probably feels like another pick here or another running back pick. Let's do Aaron Jones. We'll grab Aaron Jones as our 3rd running back and just avoid having to deal with this weak wide receiver range. The stack buster. Yeah, center's right. ADP value just way more important in these styles. I want to make a documentary about you as such a diplomatic way to question someone's sanity. See, you caught me trying to bend my language in a way that is acceptable. Pete, do I need my own best ball contest? I don't think I need my own best ball contest. I would, I should say I don't need my own best ball contest. I would like to be able to host private tournaments though. Like it would be really fun to have, I would love to have Deposit Kingdom like in season, like Deposit Kingdom weekly leagues, similar to how we host it on DraftKings. I would love to have a Deposit Kingdom battle royale each week that's exclusive just for people in the Discord. There's obviously kind of things that make it a little harder, right? Where if it is private, then like the liquidity of getting it filled, I know there's hurdles for how that displays in the Underdog lobby, stuff like that. But yeah, I think that would be really fun to have some self-contained tournaments for the Deposit Kingdom, our neck of the woods. But yeah, maybe we can make that happen this year. Benjamin said, I just went through and gathered all of the structures for the BBM4 finals. 38 different structures made it, but 5 made up over 60% of those. Look at that. This is how I don't even know if I'm familiar with Benjamin, but this is how you do a tease in the industry. This is how you do a tease, because now we're all wondering, what were those 5, Ben? Stay tuned for the article, I'm sure. Okay, let's see here. What do we got by? Let's I think this is where I am going to get. I am going to channel my inner robust here. We're gonna draft Jalen Warren, and then we are going to get pretty close to being done with running back. We probably are done with running back. We got here's the team so far. CJ Stroud at quarterback. Big value hound. Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, Jalen Warren at running back, and only 3 wide receivers. My God. Getting buried by this avalanche. Devontae Smith, Zay Flowers, Terry McLaurin. The other kind of difference in this format, if this was a regular big board draft, I think I would have just clicked AD Mitchell there and moved on with my life. But the rookies are less valuable in this format, right? Like one of the biggest thesis from drafting rookies is knowing that spike week in weeks 15 and week 16 and week 17 can be what you need, and that these guys have the type of profiles and the opportunity to do that. But because all of the weeks are just as important in a self-contained league where it's just raw points over the course of the season, those spike weeks aren't quite as valuable. And so you're taking on more risk of having, a rookie get, caught up to speed slowly and really bury your team. Like you can even think of like the Marvin Mims example from last year. Like those guys can really hurt your team in this, 12-person format versus in the tournament where it's like, just give me the playoffs, give me that one spike week that helps me advance, and I will be good to go. Is this 20 rounds as well? Yes, this is 20 rounds. That is obviously going to be a big shift that we are all going to feel here in a week when we go down to 18 roster spots for Best Ball Mania. And I'm very curious to see if it impacts any of the kind of bigger ADP trends that we saw. Obviously, we see the elite tight ends at a cheaper price than we've seen historically for a while. Does that change at all? I think there might be some kind of constrictions where maybe people don't want to get shut out as much at tight end. Maybe those push up a little bit. I don't know. I don't have a good, obvious answer for what direction that's going to go, but I do think it is going to be something to pay close attention to. All right. So I think I timed this well. I now have some wide receivers at the top of my board here in the 9th round, and I grabbed Courtland Sutton. And I was considering taking Courtland Sutton in the last round, but I noticed his ADP was a little lower and that I could maybe sneak in my Jalen Warren pick and then come back. So, tight end still an issue for us. We're almost for sure headed to a 3 tight end build here. But we have CJ Stroud, Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, Aaron Jones, Jalen Warren, and now up to 4 wide receivers: Devontae Smith, Zay Flowers, Terry McLaurin, and Courtland Sutton. All right, we do have Benjamin weighing in with the top 5 structures represented in the Best Ball Mania 4 finals. Bear with me. This is a little technical, at least for the audio listeners. So the most common construction at 16.1% was 3-5-7-3. So 3 at both of the onesie positions, light on running back. The next most popular was a slight variation of that, 2-5-8-3. So 1 less quarterback and 1 more wide receiver. Then after that, 2-6-7-3. So same as the one previously, except 1 more running back, 1 less wide receiver. Then 2-6-8-2. So that's an interesting one because you're going presumably kind of closer to elite tight end and elite quarterback if you only have 2 at the onesies with 6 running backs and 8 wide receivers. And then the 5th one was a 3-6-7-2 at 9.3%. And I think it's always interesting to think through the sample size of those kind of things, right? Where most draft structures are probably going to fall in these. Like, it would be interesting, Ben, did you pull the overall exposure or percentages in the entire contest to these? Were these the top 5 most popular structures overall? Because if so, then it's like a little less interesting. But if this deviates from what was popular on the whole, then it starts to get a little interesting of, what in 2023 allowed these structures to be particularly dominant. All right, I'm taking Tyler Lockett here. This is the one nice thing. If you can avoid a wide receiver avalanche, and I think this is unique to pre-NFL draft, when everyone else smashed wide receivers early, they're all having to take quarterbacks and running backs and other positions right now. It allows some of these guys who are normally pretty trendy picks. Like Tyler Lockett has an ADP of 108. The ETR ranks have him 84th overall, and I just got him at 114. So that worked out when everyone was zigging. Now I'm back to zagging. But I do think this is unique to pre-NFL draft. And I was talking about this with some people in the Discord a couple weeks ago, as far as like, where is that cliff going to be at wide receiver? And that cliff is much further back than where it will be in BBM because we have all of the hope and ambiguity of the rookie wide receivers. Like, that is creating more cascading tiers that feel viable. That is going to evaporate after the NFL draft. Some of these guys are going to go to really bad landing spots. Some of them are going to go to really good ones and push up high. And I think that cliff is going to feel more pronounced, and it's going to shift up earlier than it is right now. Whereas if there was ever a time to do your robust RB or to kind of push it, it is right now, because there are values like Cortland Sutton and Tyler Lockett here where I just don't think those guys are going to be chilling out in this range. Once the board reshuffles, once we can better forecast, depth charts, projections get sharpened, I think we're going to have a dynamic like we did last year where you're looking around pick 83, 84. We called it the Rashad Bateman line. And then you entered really dicey territory from a projection standpoint of what can these wide receivers really do for you after that. There is, of course, always exceptions to the rule. There's your Nico Collins, your Jacoby Myers, but I'm talking about from an actual forecast, from a projection standpoint. We're going to feel that cliff earlier in Best Ball Mania than we do in these pre-NFL draft contests. All right, Ben's back in the lab looking at what the overall representation of structures were for Best Ball Mania. It's a lot of pivot tables, I bet. All right, we are back on the clock here. Let's see. I feel like it's just no fun if I don't have any rookies, right? And because I am not as concerned about stacking. Oh, can I have my cake and eat it too here? Let's do it. Because I was going to say Jaden Daniels, give me access to a rushing quarterback. If Jaden Daniels does go number 2 overall to the Commanders, which I believe is kind of the chalk expectation right now, I can get him stacked up here with Terry McLaurin. So we add Jaden Daniels to the squad right at ADP. And just as a little bonus, potentially hitting on the Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin stack there. Tight end is starting to look dire, though. I mean, that's the one thing that makes the robust running back stuff really hard, because I felt I needed to catch up at wide receiver. I didn't feel like I could afford taking one of those elite tight ends. And you see how the board kind of dropped to me. I didn't have a ton of clean options to do it, right? Sam Laporta goes one pick before me in the 4th round. Okay, maybe I consider him there. Then 2 of my favorite tight ends, Trey McBride and Mark Andrews, go right before me in the 5th round. I could have reached for Pitts or Kittle, but Pitts or Kittle in the 5th doesn't feel good when they've been hanging out in the 6th round. Then Pitts and Kittle go before me in the 6th round. So I would have had to reach for Brock Bowers, Evan Ingram. And so both kind of how I was drafting and how the board was pushing up tight ends in this room, relative to their big board ADPs, it didn't break nicely. But I think this room sharply did push those guys up. I think one, just in general, the elite tight ends are mispriced. And also in these self-contained leagues, we know having that advantage, essentially a head start at the onesie position, where these are, the 6, 7 tight ends that can truly separate at the position, that's a big advantage. And that's probably the one thing that I am least excited about as far as my team here so far, not being able to get one of those top 6 or 7 tight ends. This draft is moving here too. When we get a bunch of engaged drafters in the room, you know what? I will take Cole Kmet. I do not think I've taken Cole Kmet on a single team. When I do my portfolio review, I guess we can do a sneak peek here. I do not think I took Cole Kmet. Yeah, no Cole Kmet. So I get my first Cole Kmet in this league. He falls 5 picks past ADP. I normally, I'm trying to think through like why he hasn't been a huge priority for me. I think partly I haven't been drafting a ton of Caleb Williams. I've been more living in the Jaden Daniels, Drake May as far as the rookie. So then I'm not necessarily backstacking him. And then in general, I think I'm trying to avoid that section of tight end, where I either want my elite guys, my exposures are heavily tilted toward the elite tight ends, or kind of like the punt options in the back. You can look at my tight end exposures, Trey McBride, George Kittle, Mark Andrews. Then you get a Noah Fant super late, Kyle Pitts early, Tucker Kraft late, Evan Ingram early, Kelsey early. I guess Michael Mayer is one of the few others who I would draft in this range, but I think it's more a structural thing. And obviously Cole Kmet getting a target squeeze as well, right? Like he now has to compete with not only DJ Moore, but also Keenan Allen for targets, which I think that's a legitimate thing. Keenan Allen is going to vacuum up a ton of those targets. But I think if it is kind of like a rising tide lifts all boats, if this offense is humming, if they're getting lots of red zone trips, we have enough of a proven track record from Cole Kmet that he can bank some touchdowns. But yeah, he has not been a target for me. But on this team, where I don't have any tight ends yet, we will take the plunge on Cole Kmet. J Mike, still waiting for your highlight from the weekend. Yeah, I mentioned it a little bit at the top. Lauren and I got to do a date night, went out for a 20-course sushi meal in downtown. My parents are in town and babysat April, and we've just been spending time with them over the weekend. We took April to the zoo for the first time on, Friday afternoon. That was incredibly fun. She's running around saying ostrich and giraffe and lion. She got to go up close to the peacock who, splayed out its big feathers there. She loved seeing that. And the lion was actually very active at the zoo. It was on its hind legs up against the glass where we were all looking, pawing at everybody there on its hind legs. So she got to see some animals that were fairly active at the zoo. So she's in a stage right now where she's obsessed with all of the animals. So that was a highlight, getting to see her take in the zoo for the first time. All right, let's see here. What else do we want to do? Tight end is, I kind of like Musgrave here too. I would want another one from this tier here. I don't see anything really jumping out to me elsewhere. Yeah, let's do Luke Musgrave. Cole Kmet, Luke Musgrave. We're probably, I think we're most likely done at running back. I could see us doing a 5th here for sure if we feel like it. Definitely one more tight end and definitely a lot of wide receivers. We're only at 5 wide receivers. This is where we're probably going to get a bunch of exposure to some of these rookies late. and hope we can land on an early producer. You did, Waylon. 20-course sushi meal. This team sucks. I mean, it does kind of suck. This is like one of the true piss boy rooms where you try to zig when everyone's zagging. You kind of get tricked into thinking you're making it work at times, and then you look at your wide receivers and you're kind of like, eh. But I do think being able to get the Sutton and Lockett picks at value or past value has made me not feel as gross. Like, you guys remember some of those Best Ball Mania rooms. I mean, Sean and I took Wan'Dale Robinson and Tyquan Thornton like 60 picks ahead of ADP at some points. Let's see here. We got Brandon Cooks, Michael Wilson, Marvin Mims. Is this where I'm so skeptical of Marvin Mims, but we just need to start drafting wide receivers. Chad Candles falls on the Marvin Mims thing there. You know what? I've already drafted so many veterans. By so many veterans, I mean McLaurin, Sutton, and Lockett. Like, I can't look you guys in the eye with a straight face and take Brandon Cooks. Let's just take Michael Wilson. Let's take Michael Wilson. Oh yeah, this team has Darius Slayton written all over it for sure. For sure. I think we should have a little fun and select Noah Brown on this team too. Packers are so overhyped, it's crazy. Yeah, man, part of me wants to agree with that. But part of me is like, what part of it is super frothy from that perspective? Because I think you could agree for sure that Jordan Love's ADP is a little rich. I would concede that, but I would say normally a running back who has kind of a path to bell cow touches on an elite offense is going to go in round 1 or round 2. You're still getting a discount on Josh Jacobs. And because of how many weapons and options they have at pass catcher, you're getting deals. Like Musgrave and Kraft are both pulling each other's ADP down. Like getting Luke Musgrave at 151, that doesn't feel bad. Like Jaden Reed as a second-year breakout on an ascending offense in round 5 doesn't feel bad. Christian Watson is the one price that doesn't make sense to me. That price like seems objectively bad, but you're going to let me get a profile like Dontavian Wicks, in the 13th or 14th round. Sign me up for that. I guess he went in the 11th here. What's his ADP? But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't find the Packers necessarily overpriced. Jordan Love, a smidge. Christian Watson, definitely. But I don't mind their prices, honestly. Let's see here. What we need wide receivers. By ADP, we are firmly, we can do Zay. This feels like a Zay Ass Jones team to me. Tight ends. I think we can wait to get our third tight end. I think we could do a third quarterback on this team if we wanted, although starting to run out of options there. Yeah, I'm just drafting the most boring ass wide receiver room. Am I streaming 150 BBMs again? No. I think I will end up streaming a lot. I will end up making content about a lot of drafts. Like the Robust RB video I made over on the Deposit Kingdom channel. I'll probably do lots of drafts like that, or then we chop them up. I got a lot of good feedback of some people, you might not always have time to watch a 3 to 4 hour stream, but maybe a tightly edited 25 to 30 minute draft that either has a theme or a challenge. We might try some of that. So the TLDR is 150 drafts will not be streamed. A lot of them will be, and a lot of others will be chopped up and made into videos over on the Deposit Kingdom. But the streaming 150 was basically every single second that I had available to stream. I needed to fire up a stream just to stay on the right clip. I accomplished that. I now pass the baton to any other enterprising young streamers. I want to see someone else attempt the 150 stream draft challenge. I can give you some pros. 84th percentile diversification. That's great. The cons. having to stream every single one of your drafts when sometimes you might just want to, I don't know, at night, fire up a BBM draft and not have to fire up the stream for it. I would honestly love to see someone pick up that mantle and stream 150 of them. All right. I'm staring at a bunch of quarterbacks and tight ends. I think in this format, 12-person league and 20 rounds, I think going a third QB makes sense here. I think we'll go Geno. We'll get that Geno with Lockett stack. It's past ADP. Potentially select Noah Fant as well with a later pick. We'll get Geno as our third. Yeah, GA, I definitely, this is also one of the huge things like of why I'm excited not to stream every draft, because I want to dabble in these other other format types, right? Like last year, I literally did not have time to do the eliminators. I want to get in the eliminator streets. I want to do more weekly winners drafting throughout the year. I want to be able to make strategy videos about eliminators, about weekly winners. So not streaming every draft is going to free me up to enjoy the entire cornucopia of draft offerings from Underdog this summer in a way that has me very excited. But yes, GA, I would say eliminators near the top of my list of things I'm really excited to dive into. I'm hoping some of our Giga Brains in the best ball space mess around with that data, give us a little North Star, point us in the right direction. Because yeah, I think I did 2 eliminators last year. Did not devote a lot of time to it, but just observing it from my vantage point, seems like people love the sweat, really enjoyed the format. So hopefully we see some big growth on the eliminator front this year, and I'm excited to be a part of that. Thank you, Tyler. Get those likes up before it's too late. And Pete loses his tea from all the Spirit Bomb likes. Yes, I like a steady drip of likes. I can get overwhelmed with a blitzkrieg of likes. So yes, if you guys could all just slowly and steadily click the like button, click the subscribe button, I would appreciate it. If you happen to be new to this channel, we are here every Monday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, streaming drafts. Best Ball Mania will be live. A week from today, we'll be doing our first Best Ball breakfast Monday morning Best Ball Mania stream. A week from now makes me very, very excited. Yeah, let's do Noah Fant here. I feel like Noah Fant now a logical third tight end. We grab Geno Smith. We have Tyler Lockett. And now I think Cole Kmet, Luke Musgrave, Noah Fant, what I would call a perfectly cromulent triumvirate at tight end. Yeah, Ben says eliminators were a fascinating thought experiment for structures. Buys become a lot more relevant. Yeah, I mean, and similar to like weekly winners, like it really puts your brain in a pretzel for all of the strategic angles because everything has an opportunity cost to it. Similar to how even like the tournament structures in best ball work, where it's like the things you do to advance from the regular season are not the same as trying to optimize for week 17. And you're trying to find that balance to accomplish both things in a single draft. That definitely holds true for the eliminators as well. Neil's thinking of streaming 150 this year. Godspeed, Neil. I will say this. One of the best parts about streaming 150 was drafting with a bunch of other people. And that did lead to having a lot of diversification to my drafts. Draft streaming at different times. Sometimes people will be like, I don't want to see another Monday morning piss boy room where all the wide receivers go off the board, because then you're saying, this is not how my draft rooms look like, right? Like I want to see you draft in a quote unquote normal draft room. Drafting at different times with other people not only mixed up the types of rooms I were in, it mixed up the type of players I selected. I drafted Zach Moss because Lord Reeves floated him on my last stream. I drafted Puka Nacua with Tom Everett Scott, a guy I had very regrettably not been drafting that much of. Like getting to draft with other people to me is the benefit of streaming 150 drafts. I don't know if I would recommend it as like a solitary exercise. because it is easy to fall into your autopilot mode, especially when you have other considerations while drafting, like talking to the chat and begging people for likes and subscribes. When you are juggling other things, it's easy to fall back on the same things you do over and over, which is going to lead to a not too diversified profile. So that would be my recommendation. Stream with lots of guests if you are going that route. Okay. God, Miles Sanders feels perfect for this team. Let's add a rookie here. Brendan Rice. Should we do Brendan Rice? Sure. This team was begging for a rookie wide receiver. We had Devontae Smith, Zay Flowers, Terry McLaurin, Cortland Sutton, Tyler Lockett, Michael Wilson, Zay Jones. Brendan Rice injecting some much-needed youth onto this team. 50 BBM streams, 50 eliminator, and 50 weekly winner. But yeah, so we'll have lots of live streams over here. But yeah, I am going, my big focus, anyone who's been watching throughout this early part of the offseason has heard me mention it, but I'm going to continue to hammer it because we have way more subs over here than we do over on the Deposit Kingdom. But we're over here, the Deposit Kingdom channel, going to be making lots of videos over here. Had that robust RB video that went up on Saturday. I should also mention a funny thing about the Deposit Kingdom channel. So I had this video I made a couple years ago, should I become an engagement farmer? And Elon tweeted about engagement farming over the weekend. I need to see what he said. Someone tagged me in it. Oh yeah. Here it is. Any accounts doing engagement farming will be suspended and traced to source. Here's what happens though. A lot of people don't know what engagement farming means. And these people started searching engagement farmer on YouTube. And when you search, oh, I'm on the clock here. Let me make my pick and then we can go. Let's add another rookie. Let's grab Jamari Thrash here. When you search engagement farming, we'll do engagement farmer. And then you go to videos. The number one hit is Should I Become an Engagement Farmer by Peter Overzet. So I was getting a lot of random hits on this video because of the Elon tweet, which I do love the irony of that. Elon saying he's trying to squash all engagement farmers, but in doing so was funneling videos to my video, Should I Become an Engagement Farmer? So yeah, I was getting some random comments on that video. I think it picked up like an extra 1,000 views. It was not a popular view on my channel. Hard to believe that on a best ball channel that doing a bit about engagement farming wouldn't get a ton of views. But I just do want to thank Elon for finally driving some viewership to that video. But yes, over on the Deposit Kingdom channel, evergreen videos. Been spending a lot of time on these and would love if you guys would subscribe over there on the Deposit Kingdom. All right, what do we have? One more pick. So we're at a 3-4-9-3. I think we just rock these 4 running backs, right? I mean, there's nothing worth taking here. There's no interesting names. Even tight end is dried out. We're good at quarterback. I think we just take a 10th wide receiver. I'm asking the same question, Tyler. Should I make a bit pick or optimal last pick? Put it on our tombstone. Should I do a bit or should I do the optimal thing? Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Love the strategy videos on the Deposit Kingdom. All right. Who are we going to take with this last pick? We've done Yoshi Voss a decent bit. There's no one on Seattle to do. Are there any Washington deep flyers that could be fun? I did say Noah Brown. Noah Brown, I think, actually has some decent contingent upside. I mean, we've already seen it, right? Like, there's an injury there to one of those guys. We already have CJ Stroud. I am a stack slappy at heart. All the fun rookie wide receivers are gone. We'll get the classic CJ Stroud, Noah Brown skinny stack. Everyone tripping over themselves to stack up CJ Stroud with Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell, and even Dalton Schultz in a pinch. But no one has the brains and cojones to stack him up with a 20th round Noah Brown, dude. There it is. There it is. All right. What did Tyler do? All right. Here it is. The final pick. Oh, sorry. It left the board for me. Who did you do? Kareem Hunt. That is a good bet. That is a good bet here. Luke McCaffrey is my favorite click here. Am I a fish? No. I mean, I think anywhere we're getting, I mean, if Taj Washington is getting drafted, I don't think you're a fish for taking a stab on any of those rookie deep wide receivers. Like, what's the actual difference between, you know, Brendan Rice and Jamari Thrash? Like, if he gets the draft capital, if he gets the landing spot, all of these guys are going to get reshuffled a good bit. So yeah, I'm not going to poke holes in anyone's 20th round rookie wide receiver thesis. And look, we're all doing, this is the Nepo baby draft, right? Marvin Harrison, Brendan Rice, Luke McCaffrey, Frank Gore Jr. This is the Nepo baby draft. So if that's the meta, I think we need to lean into it. Let's see. Utah Sports. My team 5. Is this you, Greg? Has 7 players, team stack, Packers and Vikes, and 50 plus points of ADP value. I passed on CJ Stroud value because I had a plan to get my stacks. Would I agree? Would I agree that you had a plan? What am I agreeing with, Utah Sports? It did look like you went with a hyper fragile build here. Jefferson, Barkley, Jacobs, ETN, Pickens, Brock Bowers, Deontay Johnson, Jordan Love, Romeo Doubs, Downs, Hawkinson, Palmer, Quentin Johnston, Kendre Miller, Justin Fields, Roshan, Kendrick Bourne, Sam Darnold, Bo Melton. I've drafted Bo Melton in a few big boards. Yeah, I think this is a good team. I think the overstacking is fine in a 12-team league. Like, my thought with the overstacking is I do like to do it with one offense that is like super undervalued. Like, where you get the really big windfalls are 2 years ago when it's the Jags, right? And you have Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, Trevor Lawrence, all cheap, and you get that windfall. Last year, it was the Texans, right? Dalton Schultz, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, CJ Stroud, all going after the 10th round. When that you make that concentrated bet and you get the benefits of correlation, it's a little harder to do it on teams that are efficiently priced. Like, I would argue the Vikings and Packers are more efficiently priced. So that's my only thing about the overstacking is, like, I'm willing to overstack because it costs me so little. Like, I was doing it this year with Carolina. No one wants to touch Carolina. I get it. That's why they're cheap. But if they do outperform expectations, your moat is just so wide for succeeding because the bar is so low for what the expectations are. So that's my only thing with like big mega overstacks is I would prefer like at least one of them to be from like a truly undervalued offense. Being overweight Jamal Williams might be how one Sun runs every draft room this year. Now that's a bold take there. That's a bold take. ADP plus projected points, ball knower, stacks in private, but it's fun when it happens organically. Exactly. And that was my MO in this draft, right? You know, I took the CJ Stroud value. I just think objectively him at pick 66 is a smash. I took Jaden Daniels, who I was going to click regardless, and then realized I might have the serendipity of a stack with Terry McLaurin. And then Geno Smith falls way past ADP. I think I could have gotten away with a 2 QB room here, but the 3 quarterbacks pass value already stacked up. And then I needed a third tight end, Noah Fant, right at ADP. So I didn't force any issues with stacks, but I did let those come to me in an organic way here. Yosh likes the Carolina call. Expectations are low, and I like their new coach. Yeah, I mean, and the whole thing that people have a hard time wrapping their head around, it's like, it doesn't feel good when you do it. It did not feel good 2 years ago taking Jags players. You know, it did not feel good last year taking Texans players. This year, it does not feel good taking Carolina players. And not saying Carolina is on that trajectory, but just trying to find what is a block of players that are very undervalued. I would say that the Titans fall into that boat as well. Obviously, Ridley and Nuke are relatively expensive, but the backfield isn't expensive. Levis isn't expensive. You know, Chig and Traylon Burks aren't expensive. So there are like some spots like that And it doesn't have to be the full onslaught. Like I think the Jags were a good example, right? That year that those guys went nuts, it was Zay Jones and Evan Ingram down the stretch who were ping-ponging those big games. Neither of them were that desirable heading into that year. So you can pick your spots. It can be two players that you think have some upside, but it is that correlation that gives it to you. And I think that's also another fun element of it too, is like you get the correlation, but it's like, who are the type of players that actually can benefit from that contingent upside? It's kind of why I like the Noah Brown pick here, assuming that they still don't draft a wide receiver. It's like Noah Brown, just a guy for sure, but we know he has the contingent upside. We saw it last year when a guy is out and he's stepping in those 3 wide receiver sets. We know he can be a big part of the offense. So those are the kind of spots I think of as far as overstacking and that contingent upside element. That's wild. Every time I've tried to stack Carolina, I've somehow gotten sniped on everything. Yeah, New England, another one. I guess that one's just hard because there's so few, there's even just so few options. It's like, who are the guys? Obviously, yeah. So you take Ramondre late. You probably take Drake May and assume he's going there. Obviously Demario Douglas, Hunter Henry, and then you probably are just hoping to hit on whatever rookie wide receiver they end up taking. I do think that's a decent example. And if Drake May is really good, and if Drake May gives us what we saw from rookie year Justin Herbert, giving us shades of what we saw from Josh Allen, where it's like, oh, this guy actually has the tools. He has a fantasy-friendly game. He could surprise and lift up a lot of those pieces around him. I like that shout out a lot. Just so little talent on the Patriots that it's even hard to know who to click to benefit from the correlation. Yeah. And yes, and it's like even a guy like Kendrick Bourne, who has been #good for them coming off the ACL, which adds a big wrinkle there. But yeah, I think that's a good call out. Let's just check out. I did want to just kind of pull up some of my exposures. We already kind of did the tight ends. I ended up only getting in 39 total drafts, 36 in the big board, 3 in the biggest board. Sorry to all those people who lost a bet thinking that I would panic, max out the contest, slow drafting all of these. But I decided my own well-being, sanity, and time management required me not to max this contest. So I don't have quite the volume that I did last year when I got 150 in, but I do think I was fairly intentional with kind of my overall exposures, more from like a structural standpoint than specifically a player's. Tank Dell ended up being my highest rostered player, which I think is interesting in that normally my highest rostered players are these later round flyers. Jalen McMillan comes in at 30%, Izzy Abanikanda at 28%. It's easier to have bigger exposures on those late round guys because you're kind of just clicking them over and over to kind of round out a team. But Tank ended up being a guy I was drafting before the Diggs trade. And then I continued to hammer as he fell into the early 4th, in the mid 4th. And, my stuff on Tank, I know he's coming off an injury. I don't have any reason to be concerned about that right now. And my thought about Tank Dell, specifically post-draft, and this is something too that Sean Siegel has been so good at over the years, is when you have these elite offenses, that one of the best things you can do, it's not to say to have zero exposure to the more expensive guys, but to tilt your exposure toward the cheapest, most viable part of that offense and playing it through that piece. And that is continually proven to be a dynamite strategy. There was a couple years ago where it was Deebo Samuel had the breakout and he was like an 8th round pick and everyone was like, I think it was taking Ayuk really early there, and just finding these elite offenses where we know there's ambiguity. Like no one can say for certain right now, is Diggs going to be the alpha? Is Nico? Is it Tank? Is it going to be spread out? Like we don't know. So when you want to give yourself some margin for error while acknowledging this situation is going to be right for fantasy production, I want to play that through the cheapest piece. So when I saw Tank Dell sitting there in the mid 4th and you're letting me bet on a guy who already broke out as a rookie, coming into a second year where we continually see leaps and further second year breakouts of a player who's very good at football tied to the best young quarterback in the game, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to keep buying that over and over again. And unless we hear like bearish stuff on his injury recovery, I will continue to be a Tank Dell buyer in the 4th round. Trey McBride, my other big kind of early round player stand at 28%. He was part of me loving the early tight ends in general. Feel like I talked about that with Gretsch last week. We've talked about it on Ship Chasing, on the Badge Bros. I just feel like this cohort of elite tight ends is mispriced. And so you can see my top 3 exposures here: 28% Trey McBride, 20% George Kittle, 18% Mark Andrews. So almost 4 times the field on McBride, a little over 2 times the field on Kittle, and double the field on Andrews. Feel good about that. And yeah, I'm just in on this offense. Like, I'm excited about the addition of an elite wide receiver, presumably Marvin Harrison. I'm a big, like, rising tide lifts all boats stuff. I'm not as worried about, Trey McBride's target share not being quite as robust as it was last year. I think that's going to be offset by efficiency, by touchdowns, by red zone trips. Give him another piece in that offense so he isn't getting double teamed on every possession like he was down the stretch. My other interesting guy here in the top 100 is, of course, Xavier Worthy. You guys have seen me drafting him over and over. I have been, hell-bent basically since the combine that Xavier Worthy is going to be a first-round pick because he's likely going in the last 10 or so picks of the first round. That means he's probably going to go somewhere where there's already an established quarterback and a competent offense. And I think if those things are true, if that thesis is correct, he's going to be a 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick during Best Ball Mania, depending on how good the landing spot is. But for me, knowing where these round 1 wide receivers end up, last year, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, all of these guys were top 84 picks that win the first round. So if my thesis is Xavier Worthy is a first round pick and he's going to go to a pretty good landing spot with that capital, with that speed, and he's not just a speed merchant, right? He had that really good freshman year at Texas, has battled some injuries. I think he was mispriced relative to some of these other rookies. Like, I do not understand the gap between him and Brian Thomas in ADP. What was it? Like a 50 spot gap in ADP? Did not get that. So I tried to hammer that when possible. 28% Xavier Worthy. And then otherwise, I don't think a ton of surprises with my exposures. Very heavy on these rookie running backs. I found the 0 RB, price tags for some of these top running backs to be very palatable because it's such a unsexy class. Jalen Wright, 28%. Jonathan Brooks, 25%. Braylon Allen, 20%. Even my guy, Dylan Luby, 20% here. Marshawn Lloyd, Trey Benson. So I was hammering a lot of these rookie running backs after pick 100. Izzy, just being like one of the last kind of comfy RB2s where you do feel good about him being the backup to Breece Hall. Pat was always bullish on him in the ranks. And as someone who drafted a ton of Izzy last year in the big board, it felt good to martingale that. And then otherwise at wide receiver, Jalen McMillan, I mentioned one of my late round guys that I really liked. JJ getting me hyped on his profile. Roman Wilson ended up with a lot of him. Decent amount of Josh Downs. I feel like anytime I grabbed Anthony Richardson, I grabbed Josh Downs, have 23% of him. Then some more rookies in here: Devontae Walker, Keon Coleman, AD Mitchell. Don't let Davis see that I have more Deebo Samuel than Brandon Ayuk. He was the cheaper of the two in these big board drafts, so I ended up with more of him. And yeah, more rookie flyers. Did get up on my Tyler Lockett exposure. I said that was a goal of mine after doing that ranking exercise, and got up there. So yeah, these are my exposures here for the big board. Feel pretty good about kind of the structural things I attacked. What I thought undervalued rookie running backs, undervalued wide receivers at specific points, structurally tight ends, Tank Dell obviously being my biggest stand. So there it is, 39 pre-NFL draft teams. I managed to get 2 teams to the big board finals last year. That was on 150 bullets, though. We will see if we can get one back to the finals this year. Let's see. You Talk Sports. I saw in your interview with Fareed, who won BBM with 3 QBs, but the manifesto says 2 QBs is better. How are you roster building this year? So there's a few things to unpack there. So one thing to remember, the Best Ball Manifesto, which I still consider to be like the single best piece of best ball tournament research ever done by Mike Leone, that was all done descriptive analysis on what happened in BBM2. What that data is showing us is what was optimal for BBM2. And that's not to mean there aren't lessons and things that we can learn from that. I've been applying lessons from that to future drafts. Like one of the biggest ones, like and this is going to be in my Best Ball Mania strategy video, is the importance of avoiding dead roster spots early on. That all came from Leone's manifesto. So I do want to be clear with that. But even Mike Leone will tell you that is descriptive analysis of what was optimal for something that has already occurred. It was not meant to be a predictive study about what is optimal going forward. Because if you think about how that stuff works, there are certain trends in a given year that are going to impact advance rates and what data says. So a perfect example, think about mid-round QB last year. Mid-round QB got absolutely decimated by injury. Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Kirk Cousins, Anthony Richardson, Joe Burrow. I think there's even a couple more I'm not even remembering off the top of my head. So if you looked at the data, say Mike Leone did a Best Ball manifesto for last year, the data might say, do not draft quarterbacks in the mid rounds. You can't draft them. They all scored 0 points, but you have to apply context to that, right? Well, they all got hurt. Do we expect every mid-round quarterback this year to get hurt? We probably shouldn't. So that's just one thing I would say before you make kind of like sweeping conclusions about how to apply data to future drafts. And I think last year with quarterback in the 3 QB, last year's meta really lined up for 3 quarterback to succeed, right? Because you had so many hits in the late round. CJ Stroud being the biggest one, even guys like Sam Howell, obviously Brock Purdy. These guys were hits based on their draft costs. That is going to make late round quarterback as a strategy look very bullish from last year. But let's just say this year, all of the quarterbacks got pushed up and there's no viable late round quarterbacks. It's just Russell Wilson and like Bo Nix or whatever it is. That might mean that late round quarterback isn't as optimal this year. So I do think it's really important to balance these two things, right? What has the historical data showed us while acknowledging that is still a single sample size? BBM2, essentially 1 slate, BBM3, 1 slate, BBM4, 1 slate, while also applying the context of what is the ADP this year? And that's why I think some of those things can be really fun. Like if you've been drafting over the years, you're like, holy shit, I used to have to pay a round 2 price on Darren Waller and George Kittle because drafters understood the value of elite tight end. The early Best Ball Mania data showed insane advance rates for elite tight end. Has that changed? Has that premise changed? I don't think it has. Why are drafters not prioritizing them this year? They're reacting to what happened last year. Those tight ends who went early, Mark Andrews busted people. Kelsey didn't come on until the very end. George Kittle was very sporadic, didn't really help drafters until the end. And so now drafters are like, no, I'm not paying a round 2, round 3 price on elite tight end. No way. What has changed other than recency bias to a single slate last year? So love the data, love what it tells us about what happened last year, but you have to apply that to the current ADP landscape. And then I think you also layer on previous year's data. How was 2 quarterback last year? How was it the year before? How was it the year after that? And just understanding that those individual player performances can impact the entire data set. Like another example would be a couple years ago, right? Was it 2022? Travis Kelce scorched the earth. Elite tight end had insane win rates. If you looked at the data, it would say, take your tight end in round 1. You will advance 30% of your teams to the playoffs. Well, what if you didn't get Travis Kelce, right? Just because you take another tight end in round 1 doesn't mean you're going to have that same success. One player in those onesie positions especially can skew the entire data set. So that is me stepping off the pulpit for how to interpret some of these data size sampling issues. Or I could have just summed it up by saying we're all just going to lose anyways. That was exhausting. But I enjoyed getting into it because I do think it's a good question to unpack as far as how we think about this data. And we're going to get more and more data this year. I think I'm excited to see what everyone is cooking up, excited to dive into that article Sacrilegious wrote. I think we're going to see some fun stuff. And maybe we need to prod Leone to do an updated manifesto. That would be fun as well. Let's see. Is there anything else here? I did say we could do a little bit of BBM prep. I could give you guys just a teeny sneak peek. And one of the things that was so valuable about making this video that's going to drop tomorrow on the Deposit Kingdom is basically getting my ducks in a row for knowing what things I want to try to accomplish when the draft opens. And I do think those of us who have been doing these pre-NFL drafts, we have a really great opportunity to capitalize on some ADP inefficiencies when Best Ball Mania opens. And when I say when it opens, I mean when it opens, like in the drafts, the couple of days after the contest. And I'll give you guys an example. And I included this in the video. So last year on the opening night stream, the Saturday night, Pat and I drafted a team. And in the last round, or I believe it was the 17th round, in the 17th round, Pat said, "Is my guy Sam Laporta still here?" Pat was one of the earliest analysts on Sam Laporta last year. This is even after the Lions drafted him in the second round. He did not have an ADP in the system for Best Ball Mania because it just got pulled over. I don't think he was getting drafted a ton from the big board. However, it shook out for how those initial ADP and ranks got set. Sam Laporta did not have an ADP. I show it in the video. No ADP. I had to scroll down about 30 names. Pat said, "Is my guy Sam Laporta here?" And I was like, yeah, he's still here. No one's taking it. We had just had massive information dump by the NFL. The NFL just said the Detroit Lions took Sam Laporta in the second round. We already knew about his prospect profile, and he wasn't getting drafted to start the contest. You guys all know what happened in the subsequent weeks. He rose 4 or 5 plus rounds in ADP. We are going to have those opportunities when Best Ball Mania opens this weekend, whenever that may be. So I think you guys are primed to take advantage of that. We've all been in the weeds on these rookies. We know these ADPs. We know there are going to be stale things in that Best Ball Mania ADP. And those are the situations we want to capitalize on quickly. And I think one thing I'm going to want to do, and hopefully I'll do this Saturday night on stream as well, is use that to kind of reverse engineer your draft. So by that, I mean, think about the Sam Laporta example. If you knew Sam Laporta was probably going to go undrafted in this first draft because he doesn't have an ADP, or even say go super late, well, then maybe you aren't taking a second mid-round tight end, right? Because you know you have Sam Laporta in your back pocket. Say you go Trey McBride in the 5th, and then you're saying, I'm earmarking this late round pick for Sam Laporta. You are using the information you know about stale ADPs to inform how you draft. And I think that latter part is something I've struggled with, where it's like, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, Sam Laporta is a value. But then I'm like, oh, this guy slipped around past ADP. I'll take my second tight end. And then it's like, well, shit, now I need a 5th running back. And it doesn't even make sense for me to take Sam Laporta. And so that second part, I think, is a big element in taking advantage of those ADP inefficiencies. You actually have to back out how that player is going to be part of your team. So I think the exercise for me, and for anyone who wants to really take advantage of this, would be, let's go through the ADP set when this contest drops. Circle the players who just have egregious misprices and ADPs. And of course, you are going to be in rooms with smart people, right? They are also going to know about the Sam Laportas of the world. But if these early trends from previous years are any indication, people are still so mega anchored to ADPs that it's very, very hard to take Sam Laporta 20, 30 spots ahead. Like, it is such a mental roadblock. It's something we've talked about with the Scroll the F Down videos. Even for people who are on top of it, it's still really hard to resist. So that is something that is going to be front of mind for me when Best Ball Mania opens, going through and taking what did this NFL draft tell us about these players? Because it's going to work in two ways, right? We're going to have players who should be valued much, much higher based on what the NFL told us. In the case of Sam Laporta, it was incredible draft capital and to a great landing spot. Team with a ton of vacated targets, decent quarterback. It chucked every box, and he wasn't getting drafted at the start. It's also going to impact veterans. There are going to need to be veterans that need to slide more because of these rookies that come in. You know, we're going to see a lot of, I think, backup running backs get moved down. You know, say the Bengals take Trey Benson. You know, well, guess what? Zach Moss and what's the other back I'm blanking on right now? Are going to need, Chase Brown, are going to need to move back in ADP, but they are going to come preloaded with that pricier ADP. And so that's basically the other exercise, like now circling the players. Hey, they might be 10 picks past ADP value, but is that still enough? Because a huge thing just changed in the ADP landscape. So that's where my head is going to be when BBM drops, and where I think your guys' head should be as well, if you're really trying to capitalize, because then we know what happens, right? In a few days, the ADPs are going to refresh. They'll start inching up. They'll start moving, getting closer to efficiency. And it might still take a decent amount of time for them to get truly efficient. But if you want that big CLV, you know, the monster closing line value, you are going to want to move quickly on those opening days. Yes. Gently tap that like. I appreciate that. Bendels, Christopher's getting hyped here. Brock Bowers. Yeah, Bowers is going to be an interesting one. Like, he's another guy where I saw, let me pull up this thing. I think it was Vegas Refund. He's been doing some like consensus mock draft aggregation. And he was saying that this is one of the few times he's seen so much consensus in the top 10. And one of those consensus pieces just being Brock Bowers to the Jets. Let me pull this up. Can't remember a year where the top 10 had a consensus like this. So 100% consensus, Caleb Williams to the Bears. 69, nice, percent consensus, Jaden Daniels to the Commanders. 66% consensus, Drake May to the Pats. 66% consensus, Marvin Harrison to the Cardinals. This is where it gets a little wonky. JJ McCarthy going 4, 5, or 6. This obviously is going to feature a trade up with the Vikings or another team if this happens. Malik Neighbors, 50% consensus to the Giants. That has been a chalk landing spot for him. Joe Alt going to the Titans makes so much sense. Hey, you drafted all this pass catching talent or acquired it. Now let's protect Will Levis here with Joe Alt. Dallas Turner to the Atlanta Falcons, 63% consensus. And then Rome Odunze has been a consensus to the Bears at 9, 47%. And then there you go, Brock Bowers, 66% consensus to the Jets. So it is wild to see so much certainty. And I think the reason that's happening is because like the player like matches up with the need, right? Like you look at like Harrison and Neighbors, not only are they like top 5 players on every evaluator's big board, but who are 3 teams that need wide receiver more than anyone else in the league? Oh, it just so happens to be the Cardinals, the Chargers, and the Giants. The Jets, what is like the one thing they desperately need? Well, they could really use a good tight end along with Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. So I think it's interesting how the player like in a vacuum values also line up with the team needs. I guess the one I am most skeptical about, I still like have a hard time believing the Bears would spend this 9th overall pick on Rome. I think there's other teams who would spend the 9th overall pick, but to me, I still wonder if the Bears trade out here and maybe a team does trade up to get Rome at 9 and then this consensus makes sense. But I feel like the Bears might want to turn that into more draft picks. So that's the only one I'm skeptical of. But yeah, going to be a very fun Thursday evening. And as I've mentioned before, we will be live on Ship Chasing. We actually finalized our guest booking for that. We'll be making that announcement soon, but going to have tons of friends swinging by. We'll go live just before 8, when the draft kicks off, and we'll be live until all of those first round picks are in the books. That's over on the Ship Chasing channel, and Paternity Pat will be returning for that show as well. So that is going to be a super fun time on Thursday night over on the Ship Chasing channel. As far as my other programming this week, we will have the Swolecast on Wednesday, our final pre-NFL draft show. We'll have Off and On the Clock on Wednesday. I think we might do some like first round skill position predictions on that show. Maybe we'll do a private draft as well. Thursday, we'll have lulls. I apologize. I know some people were upset that there was no lulls this past week. I cleared out my schedule as much as I could to hang out with my parents. So there's no lulls. That'll be back. And then, of course, Thursday evening, Ship Chasing. And then Saturday, I'll figure out my plan as far as Best Ball After Dark, if there's drafts, all of that good stuff. Yeah, so we are going to be off to the races. We'll have shows on Saturday night. Regardless, either Best Ball After Dark and drafts or just Best Ball After Dark. And then Monday, of course, the launch of Best Ball Breakfast, Best Ball Mania season with multiple drafts. Very, very excited for that. All right, guys, you guys are sick, man. I thought, it's like, oh, there's no more tournaments in the lobby. No one's going to show up to hang out on a Monday morning. We had like nearly 300 people here earlier watching live. You guys are truly sick. You guys are the best. Thank you for always tapping in live. And even you audio listeners, if you're listening via audio, on the In a Vacuum podcast feed. We love you as well, and we will always service you. But yeah, join us in the Deposit Kingdom Discord. Check out the Fantasy Life newsletter. We have all kinds of great content over there this week. I wrote the newsletter today, breaking down my 3 biggest question marks around JJ McCarthy, where Malik Neighbors will go, and then also what's going to happen with Bo Nix and Michael Penis, as we are now legally required to call him. But yeah, I am going to take off. Got to go take my parents to the airport today. And yeah, keep your eyes peeled tomorrow on the Deposit Kingdom channel. The Best Ball Mania, haven't quite settled on the title. Something Blueprint, your guide to crushing drafts throughout the entire offseason, a month-by-month guide and the strategies you should be pressing and pushing during those specific draft windows. So keep an eye out for that. Have a great rest of your Monday. Enjoy draft week. Going to be a fun one. We'll see you guys next time.